Hello and welcome back to Softcore History. My name is Jake Goldman. I'll be your host for today. I'm joined as always by Dan Regester and Rob Fox, my two co-hosts.
What's up, boys?
What?
Bang, bang.
Do this to me.
Bang.
Get me every time. You jump me.
You just said I'm joined by my two co-hosts.
You said our names.
Oh, yeah, I did introduce you. That's right. Never mind.
Fuck
Anyway.
you.
Yeah, no, I'm just...
Be a professional one time, Jake.
No, zero chance. We're back in the studio. We had a big sprint of episodes, and we're back recording.
To all the haters and losers, I'm still alive.
Yeah, Dan's not dead. We didn't prophesize his death.
For now.
What were you supposed to die? I don't even
He's
remember.
supposed to die in the hurricane.
Oh, in the hurricane, yeah.
He
But
did not.
now, I'm about to hit the road because we're recording this
I mean,
a
statistically.
week early.
Way more dangerous than the hurricane. Fire.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, huge NPR episode about how there's a ton of near misses in airplanes now, and one of the most common places is Austin.
For planes to crash.
Yeah, for
Airport's not very big, a lot of flights.
a lot of flights, and there's only 30 air traffic control towers, so like they don't see our flights. On
I
the
get
ground.
that.
Yeah,
United just grounded their planes the other day.
there's a strike. Yeah,
Oh, it wasn't that. It was just they had communication problems. No,
Also-
there's a lot. We're due. We're due for like a massive catastrophe in
Oh.
the air.
my wife and I were talking about it. We're like, we're not flying for a little bit. We're just gonna hang back.
We're going to let one plane land on another before we start flying again.
Me and Giorgio are doing the John Madden route, driving to Alabama for Alabama, Texas. So
That'll be fun. You guys will have a good time.
no, it won't. 'Cause- no, it won't.
It's trying to be positive for you, but
we're going to be on the road for 22 hours in a 48-hour period. So
hey, well, that's insane. But you know what else is insane? The amount of content you get when you join our Patreon. That's right, folks. Go to patreon.com/softcorehistory, and you get not one, not two, but 8 extra episodes a month. We do 2 a week.
I thought you were going to be like a week.
No. Yeah.
Wow,
that's
we really added a lot to the
You weren't listening
workload
to-
since I was gone.
Jake
weren't
just
listening
has
to the
a
production
mic
meeting.
at his home, and he's just like, he just like watches TikToks about history on his phone, and then instead of stitching on TikTok, he just hits pause, and he's like, all right, this is bullshit.
I probably wouldn't be good at that. If I looked at, like, I don't have
No,
to.
you don't research it. You're just like, I don't trust this bitch.
Just call Jake tease off. Really leaning into his new line of work.
Yeah, his golf job.
Oh, right. We're not supposed to talk about that.
Oh, well.
well-
no, Jake's a caddy.
Yeah.
He's
I'm
not
a caddy.
doing well, so you need you to sign up for the Patreon.
Patreon.com/
He's a caddy at a
history.
muni. They don't
Yeah.
even have caddies. He
It's-
just
I just show up, and they're
And
like, can you
ask
please
people-
leave? And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I
He's like,
work
"I'll
for
caddy-
tips.
I'll caddy for you.
And the old men just shake their putters at me, and I run off.
When I valeted over in Orlando, that was the perk was you got a discount on like Bay Hill and shit.
Neat, because you're gonna make it. Yeah, let me catch that travel expense.
Like I'm only making $40 a day.
Oh,
That's
what a
because you
discount.
valeted at the poor hotel.
I did.
Yeah, if it was
the,
the Grand Floridian.
Shouts to
you
the World Center Marriott
would've
and all the poor families that saved up for years to go to Disney World and not tip.
they just got there, man. Like,
Dude, I get
It's
it.
like a really old, like ratty version of Mickey Mouse that used to be front and center at Disney World in like the '60s comes out, and he's like, "Ho ho, thrift is a gift. Ho ho, ho ho.
yeah,
We all have fun at Disney World."
Just the biggest sleaze bags that work valet at a shitty resort.
You're like smoking cigarettes. You don't put it out when you get into their car.
I did start smoking
They're-
cigs there.
they're smoking as they get out of the car.
Get out. You're smoking as you get in.
You get
It's all the same smell.
You get transported by an old dude in like a minivan from where you drop off the cars to go back to the front of the hotel. And
Oh,
he's just
God.
listening to Rush Limbaugh the entire time.
Drive time radio, love it.
Be like, "Sir, you're too poor to relate to this.
My coworkers are hotboxing in the back.
Let's go."
Yeah, no, there's
It's
nothing.
not illegal to drive someone else's empty car impaired from one parking lot to another.
Mhm. And if anything, it wasn't even the drugs that made me want to crash a car. It was the sleep deprivation.
Mm.
How were they sleep depriving you?
I would work like a 16-hour shift,
How?
and then I would work another 16-hour shift 8 hours later.
That's insane.
Sounds like you got 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah. Why don't you hit the sack as
What do
soon
you-
as you quit?
Well, no,
Book a room.
I also had to drive there. It was about an hour away from where
All
I
right, you
was
got
living.
6 hours of sleep. You're supposed to get 6 to 8 a night.
Yeah, dude, you're good. What are you
fucking
complaining
whining about?
Yeah, man. Double shit.
Those were tough times.
Yeah.
Tough times.
Sounds fun.
Well-
sounds like the best days of your life.
Really.
In many ways,
Grind mode, baby.
In many ways, it probably was.
Rise and grind.
Yeah.
Pay those Florida tolls on the way to work.
Tolls are
That's the insane
fuck
thing.
tolls. I grew up in a state without tolls, and anytime I'd have to drive through a state with tolls, I would just always be like, "This is bullshit."
There's enough tolls in Orlando between like downtown and where I drive is for the entire state.
Sometimes I would actually lose money because they would overstaffed the shift, so they would cut people. So I'd be there for 2 hours, and I'd actually lose money because I'd have to pay the tolls back.
Sick.
Well,
I love that.
today we're actually
Feeling
gonna,
22, baby.
I don't know about you. But yeah, so today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that was lightly brushed on, I believe, in Rob's Patreon episode about the Gospel of Thomas. Rob is nodding to me because he got up.
Yeah,
10
that was
minutes into
the
episode.
Patreon episode last week.
Yeah, so he
So-
talked about the Gospel of Thomas, which
Talked about how Jesus was a dick
Jesus was kind of a dick,
as a child.
but it was a Gnostic gospel. Correct?
I think the Gospel of Thomas is different than the infancy gospel, but I've talked about both.
well, yeah.
We discussed, an infant wrote the book.
Yes, a little boy named Thomas. But the Gospel of Thomas is part of a larger library of what is considered Gnostic texts. And I wanted to kind of dive into, like, if you listen to that, you know how absurd it was, what we talked about.
So the infancy gospel we talked about on our Patreon.
Oh, we talked about the infancy gospel. Okay. Well, Gnostic Gospels can be insane. And I wanted to tell the audience about it.
About
because-
Gnostic Gospels?
About Gnosticism
Okay.
in general.
I love them.
They're insane. They're insane, and
Yeah.
it's my favorite religion.
The
so
Bible
far.
really paints a linear path of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, the Gnostics, for all intents and purposes, have very similar fundamental ideas. They are just expressed in such radically different ways. And we're going to talk about that today. So first things first, Gnosticism. You might be thinking, oh, like agnostic? No. It is not the same. That is not the Gnostic there.
Can you etymologize it for us?
Yes.
Is it like Nas, like the back of your car?
Nos?
Yeah.
N-O-S?
Get a boost.
Agnostic. It's actually, that's just when you're a farmer and you put Nas in your tractor or wheat thresher or whatever. You know what I mean?
And
Yeah.
you break the dimension and go into a portal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And that's how you get to heaven.
Live my life a quarter acre at a time.
Or farmly.
If
But-
you didn't appreciate that joke, go fuck yourself.
So agnostic.
We actually just got a new audience with the Fast and Furious group popping in with that joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We're clipping that one. So Gnosticism, the base word is gnosis. Agnostic means to not know.
hypnosis.
Basically,
Okay.
it means to not know.
So if you're agnostic, you're stupid because you don't know nothing.
Basically, the whole tenet of agnosticism, being agnostic, means I don't think there's enough information in this reality to prove whether or not there is a God or there isn't.
It's not having a take.
That's a beta. Which is beta as fuck.
It's sitting on the fence.
Have a
It is
take.
fence sitting.
Have a take.
Which I am. I'm agnostic. What's up?
Yeah, no, I mean it's fair. Like it's being honest.
Like I am an atheist, but if it came down to it, that plane's going down, or me and Georgie are on the road and we were about to run into an 18-wheeler, I'll probably say an Our Father,
That's foxhole religion.
just in case.
yeah, yeah. Foxhole Christian.
So Gnosticism is also rooted in the word gnosis, which again is the Greek word for knowledge or insight. But it is the name given to multiple loosely organized religious and philosophical groups that flourished in the 1st and 2nd centuries AD alongside proto-Orthodox Christianity. So they kind of came up at the same exact time, maybe a little later, but not by much, with your proto-Orthodoxy, like, Christianity before there was any sort of delineation.
Good structure. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't remember when exactly it was, but I know that like once Constantine sort of made it the religion of the empire, that's when you had the Council of Nicaea and stuff like
Mhm.
that, which gave like the Nicene Creed, blah blah blah. Kind of really formalized it a little bit more.
It was
Yeah.
a good movie,
What?
Constantine.
Same. Yeah, it's
Different-
about that.
Different guy.
No, it's about that.
Oh, is it?
No.
Kind of a shoot 'em up.
Yeah.
The vampire shoot or devil shoot 'em up, right?
It was
Demons.
John
Angels
Wick
and
before
demons.
John Wick,
Yeah.
right? But with the
It
paranormal.
was John Wick with the devil, which is honestly that's the final boss I think in John Wick.
Oh, is it?
Should be.
I haven't ever seen John
I-
Wick's.
I'm kind of out on John Wick. We don't need to talk.
Yeah, I
we get
don't-
movies so much.
Well, the exact origin of Gnosticism.
Fraternity life, am I right? Let's go. College football? Yeah.
All right.
Being in a frat for like 20 minutes.
I finally saw that meme, by the way, the Trojan horse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
About our
very,
show.
it's very good.
I think that was Schofield, so shouts to him.
Yeah, that was a good one, man. The origin of this school of thought cannot be traced, though, exactly, although it is possible to locate influences or sources as far back as the 2nd and 1st centuries BC, such as the early treatises of the Corpus Hermeticum and the Jewish apocalyptic writings, and especially Platonic philosophy and Hebrew scriptures themselves. So, in spite of the diverse nature of the various Gnostic sects and teachings, there are fundamental elements that serve to bind these groups together under the loose title of Gnosticism or Gnosis.
But it's in
as a
Hebrew?
philosophy. No, it's in a bunch of different languages. It's pretty fascinating.
Did you read it for your bar mitzvah?
They do not. They do not. And I will get to why that would not be in a traditional bar mitzvah later in the episode.
Might be that they
Ian
believe
dabble?
in Jesus.
That would be a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Top 2.
Yeah. But Jesus is a elective piece of Gnostic philosophy. It's a big part of a lot of them, but it's not necessarily a tenet.
I mean, there was not even full agreement on what Jesus was when the Nicene Council happened.
Right.
Or the Council of Nicaea, whatever the fuck.
At
Like
some
that's where
point-
they formalized like what the fuck was that guy?
Yeah. Who was he a prophet? Was he the Messiah?
Well, at some point, he should have been a tenant, right?
I think they
He
all
was in an apartment complex, or he's renting.
Wordplay, huh?
look. Jesus was always renting, never owned.
He never owned.
He just doesn't look like someone that owns anything, you know?
No.
He also looks like a guy who would never pay rent on time.
Oh, no. For sure. Be the worst tenant, really.
Oh man, maybe by like the 5th.
I mean, you got to think, though, with the barter system, he could just be like, bring some jugs of water over. Just bring them.
He's like, how about I heal your daughter's leprosy? I don't need a healed daughter. I need 20 pieces of silver. Jesus.
Yeah.
How about 5 fish?
They'd probably take 5 fish.
They might take that, actually. But from what I've seen, as far as like the universal across all of the teachings, there are 3 real main tenets. One, and it's my favorite, the material universe is a hellscape separated from true divinity.
Oh, probably true.
That is definitive in Gnosticism.
Yeah,
Okay.
being here on a microphone with you two feels like hell.
Yeah. No, I thought you guys could relate to this. That's why I wanted to talk about it.
I get it.
And actually, Dan does live in hell because he has to listen to it like 4 more times.
Yeah, he has to listen to us. Dan's heard
Over
my
and
voice.
over and over.
Dan's heard my voice more than I have. Think
Oh,
about that.
Yeah, almost certainly.
I fell asleep to it.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Go to sleep, Dan. That's for you later. Anyway, oh, there he goes now. Second tenet. The creator of this material universe is a bastard incarnate of the Godhead and true divinity. So, the God here that made this space that we live in and occupy is evil, more or less.
So he's just like some 4th dimensional dickhole
Exactly.
who made a computer game.
who tried to make something.
Yeah. It's like playing Roller Coaster Tycoon and not finishing the ride.
I mean, this doesn't not track with living in a simulation.
Nope. There's a lot of similarities between what is talked about right now across a couple different belief systems that are fringe and this stuff that was talked about over 2,000 years ago. Nothing's new. It's all just repeat.
This is what we talk about when it was like shit don't change. There's no like people talk about now, it's like, oh, it's so hard to make an original movie or show. Look,
It's hard to do parody because life is almost ramped up the insaneness.
but we ran out of ideas probably 100 years after we started making art. And
Gilgamesh, dog.
that started 100,000 years ago.
Yeah.
The Bible. That ain't original.
Nope. You mean the Big Flood book? Yeah. There's this guy, Gilgi.
We have like 3 stories all throughout human history.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But as long as you hit beat for beat, we like it.
We are, I mean,
Keep it in a narrative arc, please.
The hero's journey, Star Wars, just go beat for beat, baby.
everything. Yeah, it really is. We want the same beats over and over again.
Yeah, it's always funny when like a kid's going into like a story writing class or a screenwriting class and they just are like, oh, I'm going to try and push past convention. Why are you doing this? What is that?
And then they
It was just a
throw
little
in
spider.
they throw in a shot.
Dick?
You just threw a spider at him.
I did throw a spider at him. Dude, it was like you couldn't even see it. It was
The
so
small ones are the worst ones.
Jake's dead now. By the time we
Are we just going to keep prophesizing until one of us dies?
Well, eventually we'll be right. Yeah.
One of these days we will. If
Well,
we're
yeah.
still doing this on
60 years into softcore history.
these guys.
I think your pancreatic cancer is gonna get you.
Well, we should.
From all those beers I drink at the frat.
The little money we make from this podcast, we should throw into a tontine.
It's not a bad idea. Keep it in some ridiculous like cryptocurrency.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
But film school, everyone has that same fridge shot. You open up the fridge, point of view, boom.
Yeah.
That's OG, baby. That's
A++.
original.
Yep. And then the third thing that's important for Gnosticism. So just to recount, universe is a hellscape that we're stuck in. 2, the person that created it or thing that created it is an asshole. And 3, knowing the first 2 things is the only thing that helps you ascend to true divinity. Gnosis, knowledge.
What is true divinity?
We will get to that, Robert.
I want to know though.
But it's for the second half of the episode.
You sound like a priest taking his pants off. I'm like, just tell me, I'll still do it. And he's like, in time.
Is it
Part of the tease.
is it knowing everything but not being a nihilist?
It's very nihilistic. I don't know. It's
Somebody tweeted this the other day. I think Rob actually quote tweeted it. But like nihilism is just
No, narcissism. Or
No,
not narcissism.
it was nihilism.
Pessimism.
same thing.
No.
nihilism and pessimism are different.
I thought it was nihilism.
Nihilism
in the
is
tweet.
a very pessimistic set of beliefs, but it was pessimist. And pessimism, what you're talking about, pessimism sounds like people who are pessimistic sound smarter to human beings, but they actually score lower on IQ tests than than people who are more optimistic.
It's almost like a lazy way to sound smarter.
It is literally a lazy way to sound
absolutely.
smarter.
Yeah, you ever been at work and there's a guy that just talks about how something won't work, but doesn't say how it will?
Never has
That guy-
answers, yeah.
Yeah, that person, right? Like, and we've all been guilty of that in certain places.
I'm sure there's 90% of our audience is going to direct all of this towards me, in which I answer, I'm the most fun-loving guy on this podcast.
Dan's very positive off mic. He, like, when I came in, he's like, "What's up, Jake? I'm feeling so happy today." That was great. I really needed that. Thanks,
so
man.
true.
Anyway, these various groups emphasize personal spiritual knowledge, gnosis, above proto-Orthodox teachings, traditions, and authority of religious institutions. So they weren't very liked.
No.
You could imagine.
They were also kind of like hermits for the most part. Like,
Well, yeah, we'll get to that too, why they were hermits. And if the universe is a hellscape, any sort of pleasure you can derive from it is bad.
Right.
You shouldn't derive pleasure from this plane. So
you're going to make the hellscape even more hellish.
you got to lean into it.
you got to just, okay, cool.
Okay.
But it's the knowing that it's a facade is the only pleasure you should have.
What?
Think about it. If you live under these like cruel, it's a way to explain.
So you're just kind of like, you idiot, you're eating?
No, not like that.
Okay.
You're having
It's more-
You
sex.
idiot, you fuck?
I mean,
It's definitely like that. I've read about enough Gnostic groups to know that they just
a lot of them are abstinent. Yes.
they're like it's like cult monks
well,
that don't even want to expand their beliefs. They're like, we're going to live in a desert. This is stupid.
yeah, they're opting out.
The belief
Yeah.
should be almost the opposite, that if life is a hellscape and has no meaning, that you should derive nothing but pleasure.
Well, that's the thing too, though. There's two thoughts to it, right?
You've got to fuck your way out of this prison.
It's nothing matters.
And
so
I will, Rob.
If you know that this place is evil and nothing truly matters here, then you're free, right? And there's joy and freedom because it's like, well, I did that. Okay, whatever. That's fine. Or like, that bad thing happened. Of course it did. This place sucks. But there's a freedom of understanding, right? And then that can lead to better like personal fulfillment because it's like, well, I'm going to do whatever I want. Because why not? And, you know, as long as I know that this is bullshit, I will get to ascend when I die.
Okay, there sounds like, underpants profit.
We'll get to that.
Come on, man.
No, it's for later.
Like, it's what it sounds like.
Well, Gnosticism generally presents a distinction between a supreme hidden God and a malevolent lesser divinity, oftentimes associated with the god of the
Thunder.
the Torah.
With the lesser divinity is a god of the Torah.
Oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes.
Been saying that for years.
Who is responsible for creating the material universe? Yahweh, right?
Okay.
So consequently,
Yay.
So
consequently, Gnostics consider material existence flawed or evil and hold the principal element of salvation to be direct knowledge of the hidden divinity attained via mystical or esoteric insight. So this is an orally passed down tradition. That's why you don't have a lot of writing about it, too. There is some writing that we know. There's very few writings, but we have, like, what I'm getting to is a creation myth that's going to explain all your questions.
okay. I mean, this was the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? Wasn't that a Gnostic group?
I think, I don't know if the Dead Sea Scrolls are these, but
No, that's a ska band.
what is it? It's the Nag Hammadi texts that were found in Egypt. I don't know if those are the Dead Sea Scrolls or not.
Okay.
But yeah, so basically many Gnostic texts deal not in concepts of sin and repentance, again, but with illusion and enlightenment. So there's a positive side to it. It's about learning, right? Gnostic writings flourished among certain Christian groups in the Mediterranean world around the 2nd century, when the fathers of the early church denounced them as heresy. So again, these guys are challenging the structure of organized religion. They're being called they are the first group to be called heretics by an organized proto-orthodoxy.
The first?
They are the first. Like, they are by far the first.
Like, even though Christianity wasn't organized yet, they were like, they were still like, you guys are fucking crazy.
They were big H heretics. Not like, oh, you're a heretic. Like, it was like, no, you are officially, like, you are a heretic.
Yeah,
you are persona non grata if you
gotta
are Gnostic. Yeah. So efforts to destroy these texts proved largely successful. That's another reason why we don't have a lot of writing, resulting in the survival of very little writing by Gnostic theologians. Nonetheless, early Gnostic teachers saw their beliefs as aligned with Christianity. In the Gnostic Christian tradition, Christ is seen as a divine being, which has taken human form in order to lead humanity back to recognition of its own divine nature. So, again, the material universe is designed to keep us from realizing how divine we are and how attached we are to a hidden divinity.
So
to keep us trapped.
Should we be existing on the same plane as the piece of shit that made
This universe?
yeah,
No, we should be existing above it.
above it? Okay.
Yeah, he's kind of stuck in this middle ethereal plane. However, because Gnosticism
So
is
we're superior to God?
we're superior to the God that made this universe, not the Godhead, the hidden God.
How did he trap us in here?
Oh, all of your answers are all of your questions are gonna be answered, Rob, if you
Let's
let me
go.
get to it.
Let's go.
Yeah. However, because Gnosticism is not a single.
Take your priest off, or take your pants off, Father.
Yeah, that's right. You get ready, lube up, or I guess I will. Anyway, Gnosticism is not a single standardized system.
It's a mutual thing. You know, it's a little bit on your wiener, a little bit on your finger, into my hole.
Mm-hmm. It applies.
You want to go both. You don't want to, you know, you want it everywhere.
All the lube.
Yeah.
All the lube. Got it. But because Gnosticism has like a real emphasis on direct and personal experience, there's a wide array of teachings. That's why it's hard to find through lines.
Direct and personal experience of what? Seeing the fake God in the sky?
He ruined it. Spoiler.
Like,
He shows up once every 1,000 years.
yeah, like what are you
I
experiencing? You're like, yeah, I saw some kid get his head fucking caved in by a donkey, and yeah, that's when I was like, oh, for sure, this is a bullshit simulation.
Typical proto-orthodoxy rhetoric from this one.
He's like a super blue moon. Shows up like every 14 years.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. I mean,
I think I just don't remember.
Oh, more of like a Halley's Comet situation.
Yeah.
And they just make up types of moons. Like, oh,
They
super
have
blue,
to.
a super blue moon. It
I think
shows
they're
up once
fucking
every
with us,
14
yeah.
years. It's like, I remember 14 years ago.
yeah.
I was 23. I don't remember hearing about
People
a super,
weren't as into the stars as they are now.
because we're falling into ass backward times right now.
I totally disagree. I remember.
I'm down with
I think-
astrology,
I
though.
think I was in college.
Ladies, the few that listen to this podcast, I'm down. Down with astrology.
Dan will take as many crystal suppositories as you will give him.
If it
He'll
makes
also
me feel better.
sound with crystals if he
He will sound with crystals,
Yeah.
yeah.
In the Persian Empire, Gnostic ideas spread as far as China via the related movement Manichaeism, while Mandaism, which is the only surviving Gnostic religion from antiquity, is found currently in Iraq, Iran, and other diaspora communities around that part of the Middle
They
East.
like the desert.
They do, because guess what? There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, can't be fooled over here.
Yeah, sweet. This place will suck ass forever.
That's just confirmation bias. You're right. This
Yeah.
place sucks.
This place does suck.
This is a hellscape. It's hot as fuck and everything's sand.
Some guy comes back from a weekend. He's like, I don't know, man. I was in Baghdad and
Fucking sweet.
it was dope.
Maybe the god just made this part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The actual Mirage is more desert.
It's even worse. For centuries, most scholarly knowledge about Gnosticism was limited to the anti-heretical writings of early Christian figures. However, there was a renewed interest in Gnosticism after the 1945 discovery of Egypt's Nag Hammadi library.
So they found those Dead Sea Scrolls in 46. I think they were just discovering a bunch of shit. Around
Yeah,
this
and
time.
of course, like Gnosticism becomes way more prevalent again in the mid to late 20th century because Egypt made every sort of esotericism explode, basically. Like
Dude,
with
shit
the
was popping off. People were trying to discover tombs,
Egypt
discover
was
anything really.
low-key, had a big influence on the late 19th and early 20th century, and then clearly in the second half too. But I mean, like Egyptology was the thing.
Egyptology is what led to the rise of prominence of Aleister Crowley and the teaching of Thelema. It was the rise of prominence to a lot of people, like it because there was actual archaeological findings happening while these schools of thought were also being developed. Like, I think it was Helena Blavatsky and Theosophy is another thing that kind of happens in tandem with the Egyptian discoveries. Like, because there's this actual scientific thing happening, and they're like, oh, we found some books. Everyone's able to kind of latch on to ancient hidden knowledge.
I mean, it was a huge cultural thing too, all the way from, I've said this before, I assume, because why wouldn't I have said this before on this show? It's so on brand. But I mean, like my fraternity, very Egyptology steeped in its tradition or whatever.
Delta Squid, yeah.
Got him.
Boom. And then all the way up to one of the most famous SNL sketches of all time, Steve Martin's King Tut. When King Tut's body was torn in the United States. And I mean, that is one of
Still
the
is.
most
It's one of the
famous-
hottest tickets out there.
They
King
should have
Tut.
never dug those pharaohs up, man. That's why it's weird.
We're like the 8th people to dig them up. Those tombs were fucking pillaged when British people found them.
By locals.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
No, they would
Yeah.
dig them up, and then so they wouldn't get stolen, they put the sand back, wait for it to pass, dig them back up.
Yeah.
Except for
would've been-
Tuts. Tuts was untouched, which is why that's really one of the reasons it's so famous.
Yeah.
Is
it's
that
because it was untouched.
It didn't get fucking grave robbed like every other one.
That's an exciting life, though, in the 20s.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Just
dude.
trying to find, like, treasure and artifacts,
By
getting into
by
gunfights.
archaeology
camels.
and finding treasure, you mean looting other countries? Like,
Well, yeah, they're not established.
Fuck them.
yeah.
They're not finding them on their own in their own backyard. If
probably-
someone walks into my backyard and digs 20 feet into the ground while I'm asleep and finds, some
Treasure?
some treasure, that's his treasure.
I highly doubt you would believe that for a second.
I would
I
get
think
very
you take them to
litigious.
court.
Yeah, you would take them to American court. You wouldn't be like, oh, finders keepers.
Well, what I
Well,
would have done. If
I adhere to finders keepers.
That's the fourth tenet of Gnosticism.
I like
losers,
walk out in my
weavers.
backyard at 7 a.m. and dance 10 feet deep with a shovel.
He's just pulled up a skull. It's just a drifter, but
Yeah,
he calls it treasure.
it might be.
Yeah.
Well, you're a new build.
There could be stuff.
There might be a native burial ground.
Burial
there.
ground.
A lot
Is
of weird things happening
Rory
at your
keeps
house.
talking in tongues.
Yeah, Rory speaks in tongues a lot. Finn's been pooping only out of his mouth for the last month.
Don't you hate when they do that?
Kids poop the darndest things.
Anyway, the Nag Hammadi Library was a collection of rare early Christian and Gnostic texts, including the Gospel of Thomas, full circle, and the secret book of John, which is what we're going to talk about right now.
Book of Revelations.
Sick. So John wrote the Gospel and the Gospel of John and the Book of Revelations.
Yes, and
And I think it was John the Apostle.
Oh yeah, that is what people largely believe.
and the Apocryphon.
But we've had this argument. We're like, was it a different John? Because it was like,
Well, there's also John the Baptist.
because Revelations
John the Baptist
was,
was dead though.
Yeah.
Revelations was written like 70 or 80 AD, right?
He was an old man at that point,
Yeah. So he was just both suffering dementia
and
and probably
hallucinogens.
tripping balls.
Yeah.
Well, get ready for the secret book of John. Actually,
So
let me
this didn't make the cut.
Too hot for.
They're like,
The
Revelations,
Bible.
this is cool. And then he just got a little too
he
crazy.
started heat checking.
He's like, what can I get away with?
So
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to figure out who wrote. Yeah, it's attributed to John the Apostle, not John the Baptist. Just making sure.
Yeah, dude, John the Baptist
John the
doesn't
Baptist
write.
was killed in the Bible, beheaded.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah, why would he be writing books?
He was a
for it?
brute. He wasn't really a thoughtful guy.
Well,
He was
you know,
Jesus' cousin, I
Yeah.
believe.
he was. Baptized him.
well,
Yeah.
in the secret book of John the Apostle, we get the Gnostic creation myth. All your questions about to be answered.
Answer them, Father.
And it is the most bizarre creation myth I've heard outside of like Hinduism and Eastern religion. So for Western religion, it's definitely up there.
Okay.
John was probably a little high on the shrooms and was like, I'm God. I created this.
Is this a heat check?
Yes.
This is a John heat check?
Because everybody on
Revelation's
mushrooms.
insane.
And everybody on mushrooms at some point believes they are God.
It's easy to see.
You guys need mushrooms for that?
No, you can just be born a narcissist. It's fine.
I just need to be pretty drunk.
Honestly, yeah. Not like five drinks in.
I'd be like,
I am amazing.
I should be president.
2 drinks in and a bump.
Yeah. yeah, bump at any point.
Yes. Oh, you know what? I think I'm God now. Is this what? Let me go create something. Anyway, the Gnostic creation myth has come down to us in numerous different versions and different Gnostic texts. It's apparent that there was never a single uniform version of the myth, but the different Gnostic accounts of creation that have survived down to the present day are variations of a very common model that different models don't really deviate from. Like, this is it.
So there's a skeleton of the story, and then things branch off under different
There's
people.
different, like, they shade it differently, basically.
Right. Well, I mean, that's how the Gospels are.
Yeah.
There's the 4 Gospels all tell the same story, but there's a little more flourish to some.
And they kind of riff.
Some kind of riff a little more. John, in particular, I think is the latest written and the most detailed, whereas like Mark and...
Yeah, but shouldn't John's be the most detailed?
Because it's the most recent, right?
No, because John was there.
They were all allegedly there. It was the latest written. Mark, Luke, and Matthew were also apostles. I'm almost positive.
I don't think so. I don't think they were all apostles. I think John was. And John was the only person at the foot of the cross.
Well, here's the thing. So this was written in, I think, the early 2nd century AD. So this would be written right around the time of Revelations, I believe, or right after, right? If it was like just after 100.
It is odd. We never learned like all the apostles, like in school, in Catholic
you do,
school.
but it's...
But with like a rhyme.
Yeah,
or something,
Matthew
like a song.
Matthew was an apostle.
I don't think Luke was. Bartholomew was. We know how he met his end.
Was he the skin guy?
He was a skin guy.
Yeah, I love him. Just carrying around his skin like a purse. Probably convenient in heaven. Oh, I got a bag.
You know, it probably is more convenient to just have your skin
Yeah.
on you.
Yeah. Probably the most.
Like-
Well, if you don't have that.
It's like, oh, fuck, I forgot my skin. Got to go back.
Damn, guys, can you turn around? Forgot my skin. Anyway,
You think you get like a notification like you're missing your AirPods?
it's like, hey, your skin is 5 miles away. Go get it.
God damn it.
Anyway, this secret book of John is one of the most thorough explanations of the myth, and I will go through some of the high-level notes to give you an idea of what kind of heresy we're talking about here and why. Not just you're challenging our power structure, but you're preaching this is the reason why they were labeled big H heretics.
Okay.
So, I will start now. God the Father, so the divine Godhead, the true God, gave rise to a host of spiritual beings who populated heaven, which Gnostics call the pleroma, which translates to the fullness, basically totality. Right?
This is the good place.
This is the highest level of heaven. And there are tiers to Gnostic heaven, which it's so different. That's where the shading really comes in, where it's like, I'm not going to get into that. That's just not.
That's how we should do Hall of Fames, though.
Hall of Fame tiers?
Yeah.
How so?
Have you ever heard that? They talk about it with baseball mostly. I read about baseball mostly because I'm bigger baseball fan than anything else. But it's like the Hall of Fame should have tiers. Like you can make the Hall of Fame and you're a Hall of Famer, but then there's tiers within the Hall of Fame.
Once you get into the Hall of Fame, you move up.
There's like GOAT.
Yeah, there's like the tippy top of the pyramid, which is like, Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron.
Neither. Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds, whatever,
Heroes.
Stan Musial, Ted Williams, and then you've got like second tier, third tier, and then you've got like you're a Hall of Famer, but it's bottom tier. You're like fucking
Fred McGriff.
Literally, I was about to say Fred McGriff.
Love that guy. But yeah,
I
he
do
would,
too,
He would
but
be at the
he's-
lowest tier of the Hall.
Yeah,
of Fame.
100%.
Yeah. He should be in it, but not at the time.
He's literally a Hall of Famer. Like,
yeah.
he should be, for sure.
No, absolutely.
Simply off those instructional videos.
So, yeah, he gives rise to a host of spiritual beings. This includes a divine mother and the son of the mother and the father, the Christ, or just the son, depending on who you ask. So one of the last of these beings to emanate from the father is named Sophia, and she wanted to do some creating of her own, but she didn't want to tell her spiritual partner, which is just one of the other full beings up there.
Okay.
She didn't want to get approval from the father. She was like, ooh, he's making all this stuff. I want to make something.
I want to do my own stuff.
Yeah, so believe it or not, we're not escaping original sin from a female figure here. It's still there.
Dude, I honestly, the more I read the Adam and Eve story, the more it just tracks.
It still tracks here.
In terms of, like, him being like, he said not to do it. Like, we're living on his land. And she's like, you need to fucking sack up, okay? I didn't marry. Like, come on, be a man. Be a man. You need to provide. You need to trust me, okay? You never listen to me. And he's finally just like, oh, my God, fine.
I know you're a man without a rib, but you're acting like a man without a backbone.
Well done.
Nicely done.
Yeah, very nice.
It tracks. Like, she just pesters him until he's like, okay.
So Eve actually is a hero in this story. Sophia is kind of a fuck up.
Okay.
So the being born under the circumstances.
Does she have bad spirit guides?
Sophia?
Mm-hmm.
To answer this non sequitur question, she doesn't have spirit guides. She lives with a bunch of spirits.
Yeah, she is a spirit.
She is a spirit. She would be a spirit guide.
Like,
yeah,
she is
an
the guide,
angel has
okay.
a guardian angel.
yeah.
What if they do?
Do you have a guardian angel, Michael? So the being born under the circumstances in which Sophia creates it is nothing like the perfect inhabitants of the Plemera. Instead, it was hideous and misshapen. It is described as a snake with a lion's head, and its eyes burn like lightning. So it's kind of cool looking.
It's metal.
Yeah, very metal.
But it's just not natural. You know what I mean? Like, it's somebody's first day at the genetics lab.
Yeah.
And there's like a snake with a sheep's head, and it's just like.
That is exactly. That thing you just described is our God on this material plane.
And
yes.
it's just like, it's Sigourney Weaver in Alien Resurrection, like the other ones, where it's just like, kill me.
Yeah, it's just an
They're
opening.
trying to get the alien DNA out of her.
It's an opening act for P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
It's an island of Dr. Moreau kind of thing.
It's a left-handed woman in this at the circus.
Right.
Not even bearded.
This woman writes with a devil hand.
Her
Look
hand,
at how she scribes.
her hand gets all ashy.
Look at the way the ink smudges out of God's pain. So in fear and shame, Sophia casts her son, this bastard thing, out of the divine realm in the hope that none of the other inhabitants of that perfect place would see him. So she tries to literally sweep a bastard dragon-headed or a lion-headed snake under the rug.
Who among us hasn't had the idea to create a new dog breed? You know, you combine a Great Dane with a Chihuahua and see what you get. And then 12 Great Dane puppies explode out of a Chihuahua. They're all monsters. And you just have to take them out back.
And drown them.
And, yeah, you put them in a potato sack and you throw them into a river.
With one cinder block.
Who among us?
Yeah. Well, to concede...
They looked horrible. They looked horrible.
Can confirm it was the most humane thing to do. Slowly drowning them.
They were just Great Dane heads on Chihuahua bodies.
They just dragged them. They just dragged their heads.
These things weren't meant to live.
No.
Somebody probably breeds them.
It's probably.
I'd love to find out. I'm still amused at the sick fuck who bred Leo.
Your dog?
A Shiba Inu and a pug?
Just
Who let those fuck?
someone for sick, twisted pleasure.
That's Louis Anderson having a baby with Ariana Grande.
Man, Ariana Grande is really your go-to.
She gets a lot of play from Rob.
so much play, dude.
She's so obtainable.
She's insanely obtainable.
Yeah, everyone.
Which is hilarious. That shouldn't be the case.
To conceal further the bastard thing, She envelops him in a shining cloud and places him on a throne in the middle of it. Way to give him a god complex. You put him on a fucking throne.
How would you put him on a throne? You
Sophia's
obviously
not
put
very
him in
smart.
a potato sack.
Yes. No.
Throw him into an ethereal river.
I guess the fullness didn't have like a river or something to murder things in.
Right.
So she had to make like a cloud and hide him in it, which I guess fooled a lot of people for a while. But she named him Yaldabaoth.
That's your first mistake.
Yaldabaoth?
I'm just saying if you're gonna
Kill
abandon a bastard, you don't name it.
Yaldabaoth probably means, from what we can gather,
Like we didn't name our ectopic pregnancy.
You should have named it Yaldabaoth.
We just aborted it.
Mm.
I'm just kidding. R.I.P. Steve.
Anyway, Yaldabaoth loosely translates to child of chaos.
Okay.
So Yaldabaoth
Fitting
then
name.
goes on to mate.
I wonder if that's like lost in translation, because you know how like if you, there's like slang in like Chinese or any language that isn't English, and English idioms or whatever sound crazy in other languages too,
Yes.
right? You know what I mean? But like in Chinese, like something that's like totally normal slang that will translate to like child of chaos, but it just means like
idiot.
or like mad lad, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something like that. Like it'd be funny if what it really meant, like translated from their heaven language, was just like shit monster.
It just means like Yaldabaoth just means abortion. It's like, oh, shithead Steve.
Yeah.
Is Yaldabaoth.
Yeah.
So Yaldabaoth then, in turn, because he has some sort of spiritual divinity in him from Sophia,
Got
he
a little bit of mom in him.
mates with himself and generates 12 archons. These are demonic beings who would shortly come to rule the earth from the celestial spheres above it, but not in the fullness.
This thing is so bad at making life.
I know.
Sophia is so bad
God, imagine having
at
to
cloning.
take care of a child every time you masturbated.
Ugh. Ugh.
You wouldn't-
Thousands.
That's not how that works.
Yeah.
That's what this guy does.
Rob.
Me, yeah.
No, he made love to himself and he popped out 12 kids.
Yeah,
12
that's
demonic babies.
That's actually
know.
that is what happened. So,
Or
Yeah.
make you take care of them though.
so the names of these.
It's like when you see that seahorse blasting, like when a seahorse gives birth. If you've never seen that video, look it up. It's just like, and it just shoots out like 200 fucking babies. Like
It's a
that thing's
Gatling
not
gun.
leading them around like ducklings.
No,
They're just
they're in
Good
there.
luck.
Yep. Have fun in the ocean. Two of these archons are familiar in the biblical canon. They are Cain and Abel, are two of the archons,
okay.
and we will
This
get
feels like just a bad.
retcon.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it was written well after.
yeah.
Yeah. Because of the. Okay, I'm going to start using the word demiurge instead of saying Yaldabaoth all the time. Demiurge just means false god. So because of the demiurge's foolishness, he was wicked and ignorant of his ancestry. He didn't know about the big god up in the sky. So he belligerently proclaims, I am God, and there is no other God beside me. Sound
Well,
familiar?
If you don't know, you don't know.
Sound
It sounds very familiar.
yeah, it sounds like the Hebrew God, right?
Isn't that the first commandment?
Yep.
Basically.
Yes, it is. His 12 original archons generated new archons until there were 365 of them, one to rule over each day of the year. So every day of the year here is ruled by some sort of
I never got that first commandment though. Like if you're almighty, wouldn't you have more confidence in yourself?
Not if you're a demon horse thing or a snake-headed or lion-headed snake.
For sure, but
Or like act like you've been there before, and
You would
since you live in the fourth dimension, you have.
Yahweh should just have more confidence.
So as Sophia's son, Yaldabaoth had the model of Plemera within himself. He creates the material world based on that model, but because of his ignorance and depravity, it came out all wrong. That's how it's translated. It just came out bad.
Sure. Why
It's
not?
a bad batch.
Yeah, so it came out corrupted and far inferior of the divine model. So Sophia watched all of this and was stricken by distress and guilt. She wept and repented for giving birth to such a monstrous entity. The father heard her pleas and promised to forgive her and restore her to her former stature. But first, she had to stay in between the layer of the heavens closest to the Plemera and still above the chaos baby until she had atoned for her sin and mended her deficiency.
So she's in kind of a purgatory.
It's weirdly, it's a heaven, but it's a purgatory. Like to us, it would be a heaven. To them, it's like essentially, oh fuck, I'm on a lower plane. This sucks. Yeah, it's a purgatory. Meanwhile, the fucking snake and his archon saw an image of the heavenly Adam from the Father's pristine realm. So there's a heavenly Adam
Okay.
up top. They didn't know where it came from, but they were really stoked about it. They're like, ooh, look, they can make this shit. They decided to attempt to create a human being for themselves, but at first their creation lay lifeless on the ground. They couldn't figure out how to make it work.
Come on, do something.
That's exactly what.
Do
Poking
something.
it with a stick.
As they stood around the limp body puzzling over what to do, the beings of the Plemera, so the high beings, came up with a plan to help the part of Sophia that had become trapped in her baby, and they wanted to return her so that she could then return to the Plemera. Emissaries from the Plemera appeared to the Chaos Baby and advised him to breathe his spirit into the shitty Adam's face, after which they assured him the body would awaken and stand up. So he did it, and Sophia's power fled out of the Chaos Baby and into Earth Adam, bringing the first man to life. Because of Sophia's power within him, he was already wiser and more spiritual and more intelligent than his creators, which I don't see how this tracks. So, like, she makes a baby and it sucks and it's awful.
Right.
Then he makes a baby with her spirit and it's, like, good to go.
Well, but she didn't make it with her spirit, right? She just fucking molded it.
I guess so.
She's made it with her hands, not her spirit.
There's a lot of room for
Like, she
holes
just
here.
was slapping shit together.
And she made the fucking...
And that, honestly, it tracks a little bit, right? So, like,
But there's still part of her in
making
it.
a baby the natural way. Good to go. Test tube baby. Monster.
This is more like art. It's abstract. Just trying things.
As long as it's not pop art.
Yeah. Then Yaldabaoth went on to paint a tomato can. No, I'm kidding. So out of jealousy and resentment, the Archons made Adam mortal because he had divine energy within him. And they're like, well, you need to die, motherfucker.
Yeah, you can die one day, you bitch.
They placed him in the Garden of Eden, which they filled with all kinds of delicious foods to make him attached to material pleasures and distract him from his true divine nature.
So he won't look up because he's too busy
Living off the fat
he
on the
won't,
land.
He won't hang up and hang out.
Yeah, exactly. This basically is the start of like how this intertwines, the Eden myth intertwines with between the two, right? So the Archons wanted to possess Adam's divine insight for themselves, so they took it out of Adam and created a new being to house it, Eve. When Adam saw her, he instantly recognized her as her spiritual counterpart. So the serpent in this story is Christ. At Christ's urging, Adam and Eve eat from the tree of knowledge, again, back to Gnosis, and grow in their understanding and their superiority over their own creators. You see why they're called heretics now. Like, it's so clear why they're like, you believe what?
That Jesus is Satan?
Yeah, wait, what? Now boiling over with hatred and envy. This is where it gets insane.
Jesus was still saving them.
He was. So it's still, Christ is still a savior. It's just a different part of the story, right?
Well, now they're basically saying that the serpent is the savior.
Right, exactly.
Well, Jesus, but
Jesus is,
God's the big bad.
God is a big bad, but then there's a cooler God.
There's a head god
Yeah.
that they're way removed from, that we're all very removed from.
It doesn't really care about anything.
Well, it's like, why would big God care about
You're fucking 4 degrees down.
like 7? And it's like, oh, and who made that thing? The lion snake?
So
I don't give a shit.
I guess check it out. Like the God, whoever makes your simulation might give a shit about what's happening in your simulation.
Yeah.
But let's say that is also in a simulation. Whoever made the simulation 3 simulations above them
It's like, whatever.
not going to care.
It's like,
Or that computer engineering class. It's like a C student.
but imagine in
Right.
in our simulation, there's like a Bitcoin wallet password. And so the head god is like, okay, we need we need a little bit of that, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's happening here, right?
God, that is the most podcast ass way to talk about any of this shit.
But it makes
Simulations, Bitcoin, I'm sorry to everyone.
Do you want to
that-
scare all the women away from this podcast?
well, we're about to get into rape. So now boiling over with hatred and envy, the demiurge,
Finally. Who's left?
the lion snake rapes Eve and casts her and her mate out of the garden. The two sons
You're gross now. Get out.
The two sons born from this tragic intercourse are the human versions of Cain and Abel.
This is just bad writing.
It's really bad. It's also fun.
It's fun, but it's
Yeah.
bad.
But most gods in every other like paganism or any other religion, they're typically pieces of shit.
They're all pieces of shit.
Yeah. But Adam and Eve later have a loving consensual sex on their own, and they produce out of their union an enlightened boy who they name Seth. So that's where Seth comes from.
Seth.
Yeah. They're hitting all the notes.
I love Seth.
Yeah.
Isn't Seth the bad guy in other stuff?
No.
Seth just doesn't.
Seth's just the third kid.
Oh,
It's
that's
just
right.
there.
Yeah.
Seth's dope.
Seth is actually like.
He gets no run.
No,
We should actually do an entire episode on Seth.
Seth gets the most run in Gnosticism. He's like this heavenly perfect boy. It's like, oh, because he's made out of love.
I fucking love Seth.
Yeah. So Lion Snake can't bear the fact that there are now 3 beings in his creation who are enlightened and superior for him. So he forces Adam and Eve and Seth to drink the water of forgetfulness so that they will lose their knowledge. But the capacity to revive their knowledge lays dormant within them. And the lion snake is incapable of expunging.
This is like
completely.
a fantasy story I hate. It's like, how can we put out the fires of Oregon? And it's like, and like there's like no answer. Like no water will work. Only the wind of Sheermore can do it. And it's like, what's the wind of Sheer? Like you just bring it out of.
It's the cones of Dundershire or whatever from Parks and Rec. You know, you're like, oh, you must have a thief, and the thief can only move 7 moves, but the knight can move. It's like, come on.
But then Seth just kind of stomps it out with his foot.
Yeah,
right. Because of course, it's also Patton Oswalt in Parks and Rec explaining Star Wars. Yeah. So the lion snake isn't capable of fully erasing their knowledge; it's dormant within them, and their spiritual descendants among humankind remain capable of regaining that saving illumination that Christ gives them. All they need is a savior, Christ, to reveal it to them as he did for their first ancestors. As the title might suggest, the Secret Book of John is a story that is meant to serve as an addition to the Gospel of John somehow, within Revelations.
Gospel of John is a sequel.
Yeah, specifically a prequel to Revelations. Yeah. In terms of plot, it sets the stage, and in terms of theology, it provides a context for understanding John's Gospel through a Gnostic lens.
Listen, maybe he took a couple of years off, had to shake the rust off. This is what he produced. He's like, nah, and scrapped it.
He was like, it's a secret for a reason. You weren't supposed to open that diary.
It's like wrong combination of drugs.
Yeah, that manuscript was it's like what was the who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird?
Harper Lee.
Harper Lee. She just left that sequel in the desk.
Well, she didn't want it out.
She didn't want it out, but then she had someone.
What is
she
it
was
like?
so dementia addled that her like
family.
What is it
pushed
called?
her to do it.
Go count a something. It's like the name's not even good.
The watchtower thing.
Go count a watch, man. Like it's something.
All along the watchtower. That's what
that's
it.
That's it.
That's it, dude.
And
And then she just had a fucking sick guitar.
Post set
solo.
a Watchman.
go set a watch, man. That's how I read that.
Dude.
Well, the Denver Post called it brilliant.
What are you gonna?
As a noted Denver hater on the
You
show.
can't really hate on Harper Lee post death, right? But I can.
It's not her fault. She didn't want it out.
But also, that bitch rode for 50 years on one piece of literature.
That's dope.
Do you know?
That's the best thing you could possibly do.
Well, she forced the entire country to read it.
I know Harper Lee is government subsidized.
Harper Lee was also given a gift. I believe it's F. Scott Fitzgerald gave her money for a year and just like write the book.
No, it was her friends.
Oh, her friends.
It was
did.
just her friends.
I thought it was a famous
But
author.
Harper Lee has spent her whole life being subsidized. Welfare queen.
Oh,
Harper
do
Lee.
you know who else was?
Who?
Way more ironic. Ayn Rand. She died in Section 8.
Sounds dope.
Yeah. Just like she writes an entire thesis on how the people that create wealth are the most important people and the people that work for them are peasants.
Yeah.
And then dies a peasant.
She was a grifter, is what you're saying?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing, right? No, dude, Atlas Shrugged is the dumbest fucking book I've ever read. It is not good.
There are a lot of books.
Was that Fountainhead?
I never read The Fountainhead. I read Atlas Shrugged.
There are a lot of books that are of across the political spectrum where if you tell me that book,
You write the person off.
yeah, like if someone mentions a book and they're like, I'm like, bye.
So I don't read.
I know some.
You're better off. I will say this. Sometimes you're better off not reading.
I know someone.
Especially if you write.
I want
You don't
to.
want to jack someone's style.
You know.
I don't think it was Katie, but it might have been. It's someone I know. One of their first bosses every Christmas would have a Christmas party at their house and make them watch the Fountainhead movie.
Ugh.
How insane is that? That is like the most Scrooge thing you can do.
That's horrifying.
It's kind of hilarious.
It's really
kind
funny.
of
It was
hilarious.
really funny.
For someone that's not there and hearing that, I was cackling.
Yeah, oh,
Like,
God, yeah.
It's just like, what? And it's like, just remember, you're
Like
nothing
everyone had to
without me.
Sit down and be quiet and watch it.
I think I would.
Yeah.
I would,
And he would like run point for point over it. Like, this is why.
I'd rather work for a company that describes himself as a family.
I also disagree with that.
No, it's terrible, but I'm saying if you give me the two options.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The creation myth was also a story of central importance to the Gnostics as a standalone tale in its own right. It bound the Gnostic communities together and illustrated some of the key concepts in the Gnostic worldview, such as gnosis and Gnostic duality, which is the Gnostic duality thing, again, is we are very separate from true divinity. We don't even touch it, really. It's just barely dormant in us.
Yeah.
And illuminating yourself is the only way to get there. One thing of note, for some of you that may have been listening closely, is the incredible similarities in the cosmic hierarchical structure of Gnosticism to the way the universe works according to Scientology.
I didn't know that.
You didn't think about it? The evil archons? Oh, I guess I didn't specify this. Archons bind themselves to you.
Yeah, you didn't say that.
I forgot to say
That
that.
would have immediately been like, oh, Thetans.
Right. My bad. I left that out. But yes, archons bind themselves to you, and they bind themselves to the days. They rule over us. They enjoy sucking the energy out of us, basically.
Okay.
So our boy Hubbard just ripped this?
Almost 1,000%. Like,
When did he write Dianetics?
uh,
Because it would have only been about 5 to 10 years after all the Gnostic stuff was really discovered, right?
I think it was in the late 50s or early 60s. So
It's a perfect
Well,
crime.
I'm just wondering if it wasn't sort of just accidental.
1950. It would have been 5 years later. No, Hubbard.
No, he got his
pulled-
hands on it.
Hubbard pulled. it.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, like we already talked about, we're not a creative species.
No, Hubbard did it on purpose.
Okay, I'm just saying. I'm not trying to give the benefit of the doubt to L. Ron Hubbard. I'm more
Sounds like you are.
well, I don't care if I do or don't, to be honest.
Scientologist.
Look, Danny Masterson is innocent.
Okay.
And he is innocent of not raping people. That was a roundabout way to say he's guilty
Rape.
of rape.
Scientology and Gnosticism have similarities and differences. Wow, getting to the end here. The similarities, though, are both Gnosticism and Scientology include the belief that humans are spiritual beings trapped in a material body. Both religions also believe in the existence of a higher power, a divine force that we are separated from. Both religions also have a strong emphasis on personal spiritual development and enlightenment. All Hubbard did was tech it out.
Yeah.
He put science fiction on top of Gnosticism.
Which, by the way, is just everything we ever do.
It's like, yeah, imagine like that dumb cosmic play. Let's make it a space opera.
It's every story ever.
Yeah, it's space
I mean,
opera.
it's what is it called? It's like an elevator pitch or something like that, where it's like, think about it. It's just like, I don't
It's
know.
Rush Hour meets Barbie.
Yeah,
Like,
it's John Wick, but in ancient Egypt.
Perfect. Tell me more.
Fucking sold.
I will forever wonder what the elevator pitch was for Human Centipede. All right, like, you got one guy, right?
I don't think he had to pitch it to anyone other than investors.
Right. That's still a pitch.
I know, but he's just like, this movie's, I'm going to make a movie that's so insane that it'll get, like, viewed enough that you'll make your money back.
Okay. Right. So he
Oh, I
pitches.
thought that was a documentary. I thought he just did it, right? He
Yeah,
just
for
found
sure.
a couple of people, said their mouths, two assholes.
So, okay.
The rise of, people started, like, openly talking about eating ass shortly after that film.
Huh.
Yep.
That's not a joke.
Okay.
Like, that is, those are almost concurrent.
You're connecting dots.
Yeah.
I actually meant to say the pitch for Human Centipede 2. All right, we had 3 people. Someone asked him out to ask him out.
Yeah.
Right? All right, hear me out. 7. 7 people.
We double it and add 1.
We triple it. Or no, yeah, we double it out. It's 7, right? But yeah, no, the thing that L. Ron Hubbard did was like, instead of like people finding a personal way to be enlightened, what if we sold them courses?
Yeah, what if we
That's
charged
all
them?
he
What if we
did.
made this a business?
What if we grifted? So that's the big difference. But all in all, you got the creation myth. You got all your answers. What'd you learn today?
Not enough about Seth.
Well, Seth wasn't a main player.
Literally said he was.
Well, he was one of the few divine humans, yes. He was the first divine offspring of divine humans.
We didn't find that out.
All I learned is someone's going to retcon this onto simulation.
Oh, it already has been. It already has been. Okay, so a big community in Reddit, fringe community, is the I believe it's called Escaping the Matrix.
Yeah.
It is, we are stuck here we have been put here into a simulation of suffering by a demiurge, same thing, that they trick. I talked about this on the what is it called, the Patreon, where reincarnation is a trick. It's a reincarnation trap. We're on a prison planet, and like all the archons, the light you see, That's them like shining flashlights, like, hey, come over here. And they
Well, Jake, I learned heaven is a place on earth.
that's the opposite of what you should have learned.
Yeah, it's
Literally the opposite.
how could you possibly have learned
possibly have
Why would
taken
I
that?
believe this bullshit?
that? Oh, so you just don't
Ah.
believe anything he says.
Dan actually brings up a great point, which I'm happy you did. The biggest conflict in Gnostic ideology is, well, if we came up with this and we're on Earth, how do we know this is true? What if it's just another trick to make us not believe the truth?
Ooh,
And it immediately
collapsed on us, imploded.
I am
You're
the
like, "Wait, what?"
enlightened one, boys. I am the enlightened one.
Because you don't believe, and you do believe at the same time.
But
Yeah,
not,
as we
but
already
not in a
learned.
pessimistic way. I'm not dumb.
Yeah, I was about to say, all, as we already learned, pessimists are morons.
But
I'm not pessimistic.
No.
I'm saying heaven is a place on earth. Hey,
Dan's going to meet an afterlife person when he dies, and he'll be like, do you believe? And he's going to be like, do you believe or do you not? And he's going to be like, yes. Like, right answer, brother.
Yeah.
Get on in
it's the dude from Monty Python.
here.
And
The guy on the bridge?
he just launches him. He eats
Yeah.
himself off.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's it. Like, so you learned heaven is a place on earth somehow. You learned what? I forgot what you just said.
This is going to get retconned onto simulation theory.
It already has been, so you were right. Who's Hitler?
I guess I'm torn between Sophia and her terrible clone. Not clone, but like her terrible genetic experiment.
Yeah.
It would be funny if there was like a reality where I don't know, just someone had kids, like a coder had kids, but he had like kids, and then one of those kids wanted to be a coder like him, and they were terrible at it and created terrible code and tried to hide it, but then that terrible code created, I don't even know, somehow like better code, but stealing,
it's hard to follow the line. I know. It's shitty. It's bad writing.
yeah.
It's like
Hitler is the writer.
The-
Hitler or Gnostic.
so John the Apostle?
John the Apostle.
John the Apostle.
Listen, they don't all hit.
Okay, one
They
other.
don't all hit.
You can't write.
Nor should you expect them to.
Yeah, you can't write Revelations every time.
No.
You know, but it tracks that it's his because like snake, lion sounds a lot like eyeball angels. You
My
know?
Hitler today is Ayn Rand.
That's fair.
Just
I
out of left
agree.
field, Ayn Rand.
We talked about her, not left field.
Yeah, we did just talk about
But
her.
it was an out of left field
Oh yeah,
like reference.
inclusion.
Doesn't matter.
Uh,
She's in the episode.
Funny thing in the tattoo community
Well,
around
Hitler's in the
Gnosticism
episode now,
by the
so
way.
Hitler's my Hitler.
No, I still go
Touche.
Ayn Rand.
So Dan, I thought you would think this is funny. So one of the of people that consider themselves Gnostics, a lot of them get the snake lion tattoo.
Sure.
And that is one of the biggest points of contention within the Gnostic community on whether or not you should get that tattoo. Because they're like, why would you get
You
the
just
thing
like, can you imagine like you're fucking in the rectory with the priest, you're both taking off your clothes, and he's got a devil tattoo across his chest?
It's like, wait a minute, why?
That's a huge red flag.
Because it's a cool thing to talk about.
That's a huge red
The
flag.
argument is that it allows me to talk about Gnosticism and illuminate others. And it's like, hold on though, you just put on yourself
I'll say this right
the
now.
thing that entraps you in hell.
If we hit
Yeah.
5,000 patrons by the end of December, I'll get that tattooed on my body.
How about this one?
I'll get whatever.
It's
the
not a
lion
bad-
head snake.
You already have a Zeppelin.
It is not a bad tattoo though. Of
Zeppelin's
all the
not
things
bad,
you could
though.
get,
I'm just saying.
It's a good Zep.
You have a Zeppelin in a lighthouse? That's not.
There's a theme to it.
There's not.
We're going 1920 steampunk,
and you
Okay.
can go 120 lion.
and then I'm gonna
Snake.
get probably like some carnival freaks, some boardwalk stuff.
You need
Yeah.
some freaks on your body, that's for sure. Should get
It's gonna eventually look all. It's all gonna come together.
you should get Timothy Dexter's punctuation page on your back.
5,000 patrons by the end of December.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get it tattooed on my back if we have 5,000 patrons by the end of December.
I'll get on my ass. You said back, so yeah, plenty of meat back there.
You don't want matching
No.
tats?
The snake goes down to your asshole,
Yeah.
and the lion's head is your little balloon knot.
Yeah, it's the mouth.
Yeah.
And it spews out shitty creation.
Yeah.
Actually makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Well, for Dan Jester and for Rob Fox, I hope you enjoyed this insane story. My name's Jake Goldman.
You just got soft serve.